Support for Louisiana, the state we're in, is provided by...
Every day, I go to work for Entergy.
I know customers are counting on me.
So Entergy is investing millions of dollars
to keep the lights on
and installing new technology
to prevent outages before they happen.
Together,
we power life.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
So there are states that have considerably higher numbers, so therefore they're getting higher allocation.
The latest on the monkeypox vaccine rollout.
So many of our communities in South Louisiana remain vulnerable because of the impacts of the storms of 2020 and 2021.
We're in the heart of hurricane season. Here's how to prepare.
If this project is fully at scale, we envision 85 to 100 community lighthouses within the city of New Orleans alone.
An answer when storms knock out power.
These scammers don't work quickly. They will prey on these people for months.
The trauma of online dating scams.
We've been on a 2.5-year roller coaster ride of changing CDC guidelines around COVID, but have we finally gotten back to somewhat normal?
So big news yesterday, the CDC refined its COVID guidelines again. You no longer have to quarantine after being exposed to an infected person. Instead, the CDC just recommends you wear a mask for 10 days.
That's right. And for those who are infected, you still need to quarantine for at least 5 days or until you are free of fever.
But regardless of when you end isolation, you should continue to wear a mask and avoid vulnerable people until at least day 11.
All right, so not completely normal, I guess, but closer to it. And now here's a look at some of the other news headlines from around our state.
Grand Isle is often the first part of the state to feel a hurricane's fury and now faces a new scary issue as hurricane season peaks. 7 city-owned buildings now have 0 wind insurance. Mayor David Carmadel says the town can't afford the skyrocketing costs of insurance. The town hall, police department, and community center are among the buildings left more vulnerable. I talked with the mayor, who tells me it is tough and unreal because every day you try and help your people. A warning tonight from the State Department of Health about an oil spill in the Terrebonne Bay and Lake Pelto area. The health department says stay away from it. The advisory also warns against fishing in, entering, or driving boats through areas with visible oil slicks or sheens. Nearly 14,000 gallons of crude spilled after an oil platform collapsed.
The monkeypox virus is spreading in major metropolitan cities across the country. Louisiana has 97 cases as of this morning. In New Orleans, the LGBTQ community has hosted a series of free vaccination events offering incentives like a shot of alcohol for a shot of the vaccine. We visited one of those pop-up sites on Tuesday where a line of people wrapped around the block.
The World Health Organization declared monkeypox a public health emergency, which means the agency has recorded significant outbreaks across the country.
More than 18,000 cases of monkeypox have now been reported to WHO from 78 countries, with more than 70% of cases reported from the European region and 25% from the region of the Americas. So far, 5 deaths have been reported.
In the U.S., the cases climbed over 10,000, gay men making up the largest population of infected individuals.
We're
we're here to get our monkeypox vaccine. I think getting a vaccine is kind of your responsibility if you're a member of a community. It's your ultimate fulfillment of your role as a member of the community. So we're here to protect each other and ourselves.
And because we've learned that you have to take care of your own health, and at the same time are very appreciative of a bar going out of its way to look out for the community's health.
Vincenzo Pasquantonio and Brian Sands are at the Phoenix, which is a gay bar in New Orleans. Tuesday, the staff partnered with the Louisiana Department of Health to give out 500 doses of the monkeypox vaccine, which has been hitting the LGBTQ community hard.
There is a higher number of monkeypox cases being identified among men who have sex with men, but it's not exclusive.
Though it's very possible for other groups to become infected, Jimmy Gale with the Louisiana Department of Health and a part-time bartender at the Phoenix says that reaching this community is imperative.
With Southern Decadence rapidly approaching and Red Dress Run coming this weekend, there's been a lot of community concern about getting access to a vaccine, and Louisiana wasn't allocated very many doses to start.
Monkeypox vaccines are scarce nationwide. The CDC classifies about 1.7 million people as at risk for infection, but only 1.1 million vaccines are available, which means thousands of people could go without it. In Louisiana, the same story. Only about 9,000 vaccines are on hand.
And we are reliant upon federal allocation. Allocation is dependent on the number of individuals within a state that have tested positive for monkeypox. So there are states that have considerably higher numbers, so therefore they're getting higher allocation.
This means that outreach programs are crucial. The CDC is already creating social media campaigns and reaching out to pride organizations to spread the word. But Chantel Hebert-McGee with the State Department of Health says the best strategy is a page from the COVID response playbook.
We didn't want to overwhelm our providers or disrupt clinical services, so we said, how can we engage the community and meet people where they are? So we collaborated with the New Orleans Health Department, with local bar owners, and we really tried to broadcast to our particular targeted community to ensure they got the vaccine in the most timely manner and a space that they feel comfortable.
The Phoenix started rolling out vaccines at 4 p.m. By 4:30, all the forms for shots were out. Adam Tatar, the bar's social media manager, says this was the outcome the staff hoped for.
I'm not a health professional. I'm just, one of the guys here. And, you see this thing that's creeping up and you hear about it starting on the news little by little. And all of a sudden it's this kind of really scary thing. And even though it's been pretty clear that it's not lethal, it looks really ugly and miserable and contagious. And especially here in New Orleans, especially at the Phoenix.
This isn't the only vaccine event taking place. Another one was held at the Page Bar in the French Quarter on Thursday, and locals are also preparing for a possible vaccine pop-up at the Red Dress Run this weekend.
We're all very social. It's a very scary thing that's reminiscent of other things from our past, and so it kind of got everybody in high alert, and especially the challenge of accessing the vaccine or finding out when can I get the vaccine.
As for the supply shortage, the state may have a plan. The FDA just greenlit a new injection method. It's called the intradermal injection, which is a fancy way of saying the needle will be injected in between layers of skin instead of directly into the bloodstream. This method uses less of the vaccine, so a smaller supply can go a lot further.
Instead of providing subcutaneous injections, research has shown if you actually provide intradermal injections, you can vaccinate more than one person, up to 5 people with one vial.
That wasn't the method used at the Phoenix on Tuesday, but it could become a game changer in the near future. In the meantime, though, Pasquantonio says he wants to see more of the LGBTQ community take advantage of shot-for-shot events, despite any existing stigmas.
Anytime we have a disease like this, and this was the case with COVID and a lot of other diseases in our memory, in our community, it's always going to affect marginalized folks first, whether it's the LGBT community, whether it's the Black community, whether it's people of trans experience. So don't be afraid of that stigma, protect yourself, protect your community. Don't listen to the haters, don't listen to other people that are stigmatizing it. We have this vaccine and we have the community to support, one another, and we can protect ourselves.
For more information on who's eligible for the vaccine, be sure to visit LDH's website.
Coping in the immediate aftermath of a hurricane has a leg up from years past because of the Community Lighthouse Project. I talked with leaders from Together New Orleans who have plans for the entire state with Together Louisiana. Here's Antoine Barrier and Kalita Lloyd.
Community Lighthouse Project was something that was birthed out of post-Hurricane Ida. As you said, hurricanes aren't stopping. We know them very well here in Louisiana. And so it's an opportunity to equip congregations and community institutions within a city, within a community with solar panels and solar battery backups. So that when the lights go out, when the electricity grid goes out, these institutions, what we call in community lighthouses, will light up and be a resource for the community.
Our church, as well as other churches, we're always involved in the community. We bring people together weekly, if not, we've already had a food outreach this week, and we'll have another one before the week is out where we give out food. So we're touching the people. But the challenge comes again, when these storms come or whenever the grid goes down, most times the city, state, and national government don't have enough manpower. We saw that with Katrina. We saw that with Rita, Isaac, and just about every other hurricane. It needs the community involvement, and this lighthouse allows us to continue to operate.
And this is happening simply from batteries and solar. Is that correct?
Simply from batteries and solar, the solar is charging the batteries, and then when the power goes down, the battery backup comes on, and then the next day they're able to do it again. So we can operate like this almost nonstop. But we're putting these in buildings that can withstand the hurricanes and be ready to roll.
If this project is fully at scale, we envision 85 to 100 community lighthouses within the city of New Orleans alone. The idea is that people are a 15-minute walk, 1 mile away from a community lighthouse is the absolute vision in that scale. And so our pilot phase includes 16 locations here in New Orleans, all across the city, that is strategically placed, that even though it may not be in 15 minutes as a pilot, it's in a good proximity. Every area is covered in New Orleans. And then we pinpointed 6 other areas outside of New Orleans across Louisiana to also have community lighthouses as well. And so that pilot project is about approximately a little bit over $13 million. And to date, we've raised a little bit over $10 million. And so we've gotten support from our congressman, we've gotten support from our New Orleans mayor, we've gotten support from some nonprofit agencies.
Pastor, who have you reached out to besides the churches and besides other faith-based organizations?
Well, again, we've already been in contact with Congressman Carter, again, which has put up about $3.8 million. Again, looking at all the rest of our state legislators, we've met with the governor, and we're really believing that they will put some more money in the budget for that. So it's everyone realizes that this is a plan overdue, that this is what has been needed to be in there. So it's just right now getting everyone to line up the ducks so that we can get this other funding.
We're working together to make the idea come a reality. It's one thing to have an idea and a strategy. It's another thing to put it in motion. And so it's been lots of meetings and connecting with people. We had a big event June 28th at Household of Faith, where we really kind of did a public kickoff launch for this event to really invite people to be thinking about it and thinking about it as a we, right? It's not just our city, it's not just our state, but it's all of us who gets to contribute to the solutions that we're seeing.
I guess there wasn't always solar per se, but there were batteries. So the idea of this seems like, why didn't we think of this before, perhaps?
Definitely. What we said is like, this is not a novel idea, right? This is just something where it's going to take resources to do it. And we were willing to take the initiative to get it done.
All the best. keep the money coming in, everybody statewide. They need your help. It's a team effort, and together Louisiana try to get this thing done and take care of it, right?
We've had a relatively quiet hurricane season so far, but don't be fooled. August and September are notoriously active months for severe weather and hurricanes. As we continue into the most dangerous part of the season, GOSEP is giving tips on how to prepare before it's too late. We are here to talk about the do's and don'ts of hurricane season. What's the main thing that people really need to know going into hurricane season?
Well, this hurricane season particularly, so many of our communities in South Louisiana remain vulnerable because of the impacts of the storms of 2020 and 2021. So a number of blue roofs that are still out there, families that are living in trailers and other sorts of temporary housing. And so for all of those reasons, it's important for people to have a plan.
So like you were saying, a lot of people, they're still vulnerable from what happened in 2020 and in 2021. I still have sandbags by my house from Hurricane Ida. Is that something that I'd be able to use this year for hurricane season?
Probably so. Sandbags, typically if they're not in the sun where they might deteriorate, are something that can be used and do have a shelf life that allows them to stay. And so certainly that's something that you can take a look at. So those are some practical things, and certainly paying attention to where local governments might be making sand available to put in the sandbags is important as well.
So you were just saying, everybody would be prepared. Local governments have their own way of getting everything distributed the way it needs to be. Are you guys anticipating having to do that this year?
So we plan for being ready to support our local partners every year. All disasters really start and end locally, and so those are the most important decision makers that we here at the state are ready to support, and connecting with our federal partners. But really, understanding what our locals' plans are, being ready to support them, is a really important part of what we do at the state emergency management and in our state EOC is really to take in those resource requests that local governments might make to us and to be able to support them.
So it's August now. Hurricane season starts in June, and it's been relatively quiet. Does that mean that anybody should be having their guard down?
Certainly not. So when we look at the past, when we look at just the past 2 years, when we get into mid-August, really through September, that's when the real height of hurricane season ramps up. The experts at the Hurricane Center continue to predict that this is going to be an active season. Certainly our hope is that Louisiana would be spared after having been through so much the last few years. But in terms of planning and being prepared, certainly we can't let our guard down just because things have been quiet so far.
The other thing I want to know about is flooding. Okay. A big part of hurricane season is the flooding, not just the winds, but how do you prepare for something like that?
Yeah, flooding is something that we deal a lot with in Louisiana, both in North Louisiana and in South Louisiana. It really can be associated with hurricanes, but it can be associated with just heavy rainfall. There certainly are areas where, in low-lying areas, flood-prone areas, where if a family knows that they flooded in the past, that's something that they need to be aware of and have a way to get out and notify loved ones that they're safe. And I know that there's been a lot of discussion about some changes to the flood insurance program, but we would still encourage everyone to talk to their insurance agent about the need for flood insurance and work through that process to make an informed decision and potentially be able to buy flood insurance, because your regular homeowner's policy is not going to cover damage from a flood.
So if you're from Louisiana and you've lived here your entire life, you're really used to hurricanes and the idea of flooding. But suppose you're a new person, you're an implant, you just got here. What is something that you think is overlooked that maybe they should know?
Our flooding can, because of the rivers and the bayous and all of the waterways that we have, sometimes the flooding can last a long time. It can isolate. And so in terms of that, it's really just practical things of having food and water at your house that's not going to spoil, so that you've got something that you can, if there's going to be a day or so where first responders can't access you, that you're able to sustain your family and that sort of thing. And so it's just the practical advice that we would give anybody of having a plan, staying in touch with family and loved ones, being able to take care of yourself for 72 hours in terms of food and water, always having your devices charged, knowing where your documents are for your home and important documents and keeping those safe. And then really planning for recovery, whether it's a hurricane or a flood, being prepared to take pictures if something is damaged, document what is lost and keep those records, because all of that's going to be important later on.
All right, so is there anything else you'd like to say that you feel I didn't ask?
I think that's good from our perspective.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now to a story about online dating scams that I had no clue involved me. Involved me simply because my photos on social media are public and they're easy for others to use. And boy, are they ever used. Here is part one of a two-part special report.
This is an email today. A woman from Oregon named Lana. Just to let you know, your pics are on all dating sites under different names used by scammers. She's not telling me anything I haven't heard before, and of course she's telling me because she has learned she was being scammed. It's a stunning revelation to learn something you thought might have been love is anything but. And it happens over and over, like it happened to this woman.
My name is Glenda and I'm 81 years old. In 2014, I met the love of my life online, and
Online dating didn't need COVID to experience a pandemic of its own, but scams soared during 2020 and 2021. And the realization of those hurt also grew. From the Ukraine to Kentucky, women began reaching out to me, desperate to know the truth. It was a phone call from a woman in Kentucky that really got to me. I'm at home on a Sunday afternoon, get a phone call from a woman in Kentucky saying, I've had your picture on my piano for 6 months. I love you. What? That gives you an idea of the depth and reach of scammers, the deceit, the total disregard for another human being. This is a woman who had gotten involved in some sort of online dating scam situation, relationship with somebody using my picture. She thought it was me until she discovered it wasn't. And she was relating this from having her heart broken, like anybody who thinks they're talking to somebody would. It made me go online wondering what else is out there. So I did. And here's one. Scammers with pics of Andre Morrow romance scam. This is some sort of police report showing pictures of me. Go on to say, this is an innocent TV news anchor in the U.S. whose pictures are being used by scammers to get money from women.
I'm a primary school teacher by trade, and I've been doing that since 2004.
This is Anna Rowe. She lives in the UK. Her website and blogs, Catch the Catfish, may be the most comprehensive help site in the world. She developed it after she had become a victim.
I had an experience through online dating in 2015 with a guy who was a catfish, but he wasn't one of these financial scammers. He was actually a lawyer here in the UK who was leading a double life with a fake identity. And I was the first woman in him having done this for 12 years that actually tracked him down and found out who he was in his real life. There are 17 of us that I know with, and that's actually now an ongoing police case.
That was in 2015, and at the time, there was absolutely nowhere for her to turn for help.
And the authorities at the time were literally, you get laughed at when you go to the police. There was no deeper understanding of it. And so that's when I set up my website initially. And the amount of people that were coming forward was really overwhelming.
It was overwhelming to me when Anna showed me even more examples and tactics of scammers who use my pictures.
I'd never heard of these scammers before, but what drew me was the fact that the script in the text messages that they were sending me were almost parallel to the kind of messages that I was getting from my catfish. And I then realised from where I'd educated myself that the language that they were using was drawn on from the scripts that narcissists and psychopaths use in something called love bombing.
Anna says it's a very clever emotional manipulation.
If you research love bombing, and it's also known as the psychopath's love hook,
right,
and that kind of language, I mean, it's well documented, and these scammers have absolutely drawn on that, and something called trauma bonding that is also used by narcissists and psychopaths, and it was quite frightening, but it very quickly helped me understand why these people were in the situations that they were in, and how, you know, these scammers don't work quickly. They will prey on these people for months and months at a time before any money is handed over.
So what are dating sites, Facebook, Instagram, for example, doing about copycat and fraud accounts? You will be surprised to learn how little. We'll have more of that next week.
I cannot believe this story, Andre, especially because you were in the center of it.
Yeah, well, and many other people also, but it's a whole new world out there. That's one thing for sure. Hey everyone, that is our show for this week. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our LPB PBS app.
You can catch LPB news and public affairs shows, as well as other Louisiana programs you've come to enjoy over the years. And please like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok.
For everyone here at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Morrow.
And I'm Kara St. Cyr.
Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Every day, I go to work for Entergy.
I know customers are counting on me.
So Entergy is investing millions of dollars
to keep the lights on
and installing new technology
to prevent outages before they happen.
Together,
we power life.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.